Welcome to Make a Path Presents. I'm Ronnie Hayes, and today let's talk about El Camino. Now, I was thinking about doing a more edited review, but it would probably take me a few days. Something along the lines of my recent Walking Dead episode, Flaws and Aws, where we did a counter and picked out the flaws and aws. Maybe down the line I can come back. I know I want to hover in the horror genre mostly for that as we get going. But I really wanted to get my first impression, thoughts, and opinions out for El Camino because I know it's something on this channel we've been talking about for a few months now. Excited for its release. So it finally released, and I gotta say, my first initial response was my expectations were in a different ballpark, but that doesn't steal away from how nicely this fits in with the world of Breaking Bad. It's essentially like two bonus episodes to cap off the end of Jesse Pinkman's story. I'll discuss just super briefly some spoiler-free stuff, and then maybe we'll touch on a few spoiler stuff that some things I had an issue with, and then some things I really liked. I think the main thing, if I can say that one main piece about El Camino is it's absolutely necessary, which is something I know a lot of fans were concerned about. Because if this was something more along the lines of, and it's tricky coming up with labels. I know Martin Scorsese got in some hot water because I think it was worded poorly, but I feel where he's coming from, where he's like, the MCU movies are more like an amusement park, and then certain movies are more cinematic. I get what he's saying, because there are movies that have more of, even when you ground them in reality, you can do a little bit more fantastical writing and storytelling with it without breaking that immersion. You get what I'm saying? And you can have a lot more fun with it. Breaking Bad, if I'm using those poorly worded labels, it would be more on the cinematic side. You'll find a lot more stuff more predictable, but that's because if you're a fan of the series and you watched all of the Breaking Bad, you're going to know who the characters are. And then you're going to know, well, realistically in that world, where else is he going to go? What else is he going to do? It is probably, and I think that's what tore from my first watch enjoyment versus my expectations, because my immediate ideas of what would happen for Jesse Pinkman, and again, I'm staying spoiler free here. My immediate ideas were what happened, because again, you pick the characters that you already know from the show, and yeah, they come back and they follow suit, but it's not bad. And again, I think this is where certain shows get unfairly judged by being too predictable, or that's whatever. Because if you're paying attention to the character development, the world, the characters that certain lead characters know, the story beats that are playing out, only certain things, you're not going to open a door and boom, this whole new world of shit is going to open up, and it's going to be this big twist. And I don't want to stall too much on this review a bit, because I got to run out the door soon, and I only got one shot at this, so I would like to come up with an example of a movie where you could, like Usual Suspects, for example. It's real playful. I mean, it's a classic. It's got this cult following. Usual Suspects is one hell of a watch, and it's fun. It has that. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it has that element that is more grounded, right? But it's not cinematic grounded. It's all cinema in my opinion. Again, poor labels, but in it you can have these crazy fantastical twists. With Breaking Bad, and I know we talked about this before, and we're not going to get into it, but with how it ended, there was an opportunity to get really fantastic with twists. It was blame it all on Uncle Jack, and then Walter White serves only 5 years, and then and his cancer went into remission. And again, I know everything you can point out. There's really openings to write it. And again, it would be a more fantastical, but the story's written a lot more grounded and real. It's more along the lines of this is real life. You get confirmation of a few things. And again, I feel like that will make its place with Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul more important. And again, it is definitely necessary because it gives you that final bit of Jesse Pinkman's story. Maybe not all of it, because there's definitely more that you would want to know. You know what I mean? As far as the spoilers, the spoiler-free, that's pretty much it. We're going to go into just a couple spoilers, and I'll hear what you guys have to say about the movie, but that's it for the spoiler-free stuff. If you haven't seen it, and if you're a fan of Breaking Bad, I'm shocked you haven't watched it by now. The moment you get some free time, go and watch it, but like I said, keep your expectations locked in. You're not going to have... You're not going to have wild new stuff filling this fast-paced kind of story. Just put your expectations in check and go watch it. Now, diving into some spoilers, I do know for me there was a few moments that did kind of drag a bit with a certain level of frustration. I know some of the characters obviously looked aged. I think aged, one of the worst was Todd. He definitely gained a lot more weight in the last, 6 years or so since the finale. A lot fatter in the face, and it was a bit distracting. As far as kind of retconning the characters that built the cage, I was fine with that retcon, and I kind of like that. And that's something that, again, touching back on something that's predictable. The ending, I couldn't believe the ending was so friggin' predictable. We talk about it all the time on this channel, but the ending came around so full circle. I was like, why wasn't that the first thing we thought of? Because Hollywood always does that, full circle ending. But anyway, going back to retconning with the cage and shit, it was the first thing we mentioned. After watching the trailer, we were like, oh, it's got to have something to do with more of Jack's guys, connected in some way. And I think we even mentioned going after money. Again, it's one of the first thoughts because that's all we know from the world. Jack, everyone else who's dead, we're not going to mention them. So everyone else who's dead. And then you got Skinny Pete. Well, he's Jesse's friend, and Badger, that's a friend. So what can we do with conflict? Okay, someone who's connected to Jack. Oh, money, okay. And then a lot of you guys mentioned it. I didn't think they would go that route because, again, it's literally just repeating something they were going to do on the main show, but then they didn't do. But that's going with the vacuum repair guy, the guy who disappears you. And I just thought it had to have been something else because it's just so easy. It's the first thing you think of. And if you go back to that older video, almost every one of you mentioned it in the comments. It's got to deal with the vacuum guy. And or at least when I was reading through the comments, I felt like it because I was like, damn, I didn't really think that would be that popular because they already did that, but they do it again. And once you see it and you watch it, you get it. You're like, you know what? Honestly, what else could they have done? He doesn't know anyone. It's anyone else that can disappear him. He can go on the run, but it doesn't complete the story because with the vacuum repair guy, we know he can make it so that Jesse's good. So we don't have to worry about him. New ID, new location, new backstory, blah, blah, blah. He's good. So yeah, there was that. Again, there was that and the money, the connection with Jack and them. Predictable, but then when you watch it, and that's another frustrating thing. It's not predictable bad. It's predictable because you watched all the other Breaking Bad episodes and you know this world and these characters. So obviously, it's going to have something to do with, certain members here and where we left off. Going back to certain small things that did annoy me, though, I found one cliche Hollywood writing technique, or it's not even a technique, but it's a bad trait, bad habit. I think that's a good way to put it. That I was a little surprised Vince I always say his name wrong. Gilligan, isn't it? Or Gilligan. And it's the one where, and again, this is small stuff, but where I feel like they kind of missed a little moment where Skinny Pete and Badger said, did they really have you, in a cage? and he just looks at them and shuts the door. I can't stand it. I don't know what it does, but it makes my blood boil when characters never communicate. I know with Fear the Walking Dead, one of the main characters in the first like season or two did that constantly, and it almost took me out of it to a point where I didn't even want to watch anymore, because what's the point? There's no tension there. You're a dick also, even if you go through something bad. And I thought, man, it would have been, more emotional if they were like, yo, did they really have you in a cage? And he's fucked up, and he just says it was underground. That's it. That's all you got to say. It was underground, or it was like a concrete room underground. I prefer just simple. It was underground. Like, yes, it was, but it was, it was bad. And then his buddies would know. There was a couple moments, and again, I'm nitpicking one small thing out, but there's a couple little moments throughout where I thought they could have incorporated a little more emotion to it, but they just didn't go all the way, or they went a different way, which is fine, because even though I'm picking out some negatives, like I said, I still think this is definitely necessary. I think it's great that we can finish out Jesse Pinkman's story in this light, and again, finish out the very beginning. The end of Breaking Bad was him driving away, escaping, and the end of this, the beginning technically, was him driving away, matching that up, and then at the end of this is him driving away from his past life and driving towards his new life. It's literally coming full circle like Hollywood always does. It's storytelling technique that I love. I love when shit comes full circle, but we see it more and more and more and more and more. It kind of seeps into everything, and it takes a little out of it because it's used constantly all the time. And again, going back to, that should have been the first thing we thought of. How to end a character's story. Okay, it's going to come first full circle in what way? All right, well, let's look at how we introduce the character. All right, it's not going to be meth. It's not going to, he has evolved. Okay, well, how did it end? Driving away. Okay, he's going to be driving away from his old life towards a new one. But anyhow, I still really like that, even though come a full circle is, visually it's becoming a little more tiresome, because again, it's in everything. Even when you read screenwriting books that teach you, it's one thing they pound you in the head with to do. But anyway, so where he goes next, again, it's a character where it's like it wouldn't be the same, but you still kind of wonder, because he's still a younger dude. You still kind of wonder what would his life be like. I was a little shocked that he picked Alaska. I guess if you're that wanted, you'll go wherever, but I was like, nah. I guess at that point in time, you realize, well, listen, there's only so many options for me. I'm not spending the rest of my life in prison. I might as well just, but there was some really cool badass moments, some scenes. I don't want to sit here and go through every single one, but the shootout was great. Again, they set it up with the two guns, little moments like that. How the guy's head fell down when he opened a door. Again, these are really small moments, but I feel like El Camino was a lot of really small moments. That was it wasn't overblown, overdone, overstuffed. Like I think in a way my expectations were kind of expecting that. And I'm kind of happy they didn't go overblown and overstuffed. It was a long episode, like an extended episode, just capping out his story. But all right, that's all I really got to say. I would have to go back and watch it again and take a lot of time to really cover what it's going to take me another rewatch with my expectations in check. And this has happened where I watched something with different expectations and I was like, ooh, I don't hate it. And I don't want to use the word disappointed, but it didn't line up with my expectations. And then down the line, I would rewatch it, and I freaking loved it afterwards. Zombieland is a movie like that. When I went to see it, I knew it was a comedy, but I was still in the mood at that point in time for like the timeline for zombie genre content. I was in the mood for more serious stuff because we didn't have a whole lot. And when I saw it again, I was like, I knew it was a comedy, but I just didn't appreciate it for what it was. And then I waited a few years and I watched it again. I liked it a little more. I waited like till 2 Halloweens later, watched it again, and I freaking loved it. You know what I mean? So Some of it with your expectations adjusted or just completely gone, and you go back to the material, you get something different out of it. And I know El Camino is going to do that because I didn't hate it. A couple small little things that rubbed me the wrong way, but I think this is a great send-off for Jesse Pinkman's story. But you guys, put your thoughts and opinions down in that comment box. Speak your geek. I'm done talking. It's your turn. Oh, and don't forget, speaking of flaws and awes, I'm already working on Train to Busan, but that's going to have to wait a little bit because we have a new episode of The Walking Dead to do this week coming up. So I'm going to have to do The Walking Dead one first and then Train to Busan, and then I got to get my butt working on the Halloween special, which I already started, but it's not till the end of Halloween, so I'm going to try to sneak some stuff in before then. So keep an eye out for that. All right, thoughts and opinions down there. I'm done. It's your turn.